On this special edition of News Vision, we are celebrating the 75th anniversary of Everglades National Park, a World Heritage Site, a biosphere reserve, and a wetlands of international importance.
The Everglades is a super unique ecosystem. It is the only ecosystem like it in the entire world.
We bring you team coverage from the field, from examining the long, rich history of the Everglades and its vital significance to Florida.
A lot of Floridians make a living out of this.
To why the wetlands were nearly obliterated in the 20th century.
It's this place that we essentially, destroyed half of it, and we've crippled the other half.
We take a closer look at the massive efforts to restore and preserve the Everglades.
This is the most expensive ecosystem restoration project in the entire world, but it's worth it.
Plus, we uncover the secrets of the swamp, from endangered and invasive species to some unique sites off the beaten path.
We want to protect the Everglades, and we want to make people aware of the Everglades.
And we look ahead at what the future of this one-of-a-kind ecosystem holds.
The Everglades is a test. If we pass, we may get to keep the planet.
Hello and welcome to this special edition of UMTV's News Vision from one of the most fascinating and important places in the world, the Florida Everglades. I'm Sophia Vitello.
And I'm Daryl Barnes. Thank you for joining us. The Everglades National Park was inaugurated in December 1947, and all throughout 2023, it's celebrating its 75th anniversary.
And what you see around us is called the Anhinga Trail, one of the most popular trails in the park, and it's also part of the U.S. National Register of Historic Places.
Yeah, and we at the University of Miami are very fortunate to live close to this ecosystem that's truly one of a kind. And we're here today to introduce you to it. From its rich history to the numerous benefits it provides for millions of people to the serious challenges it's faced with and the gigantic efforts to restore and preserve it.
The Everglades National Park is only 75 years old, but the wetlands that you see here have been around for at least 5,000 years.
Before it was the place to go for airboat tours and seeing wild gators, well before becoming the largest environmental restoration project in history, this was the Everglades. A massive unmarked piece of land that early explorers called uninhabitable.
When the first Spanish came in the 16th century, they immediately told the king that it was liable to overflow and of no use. It was swampland.
The Swamp. That's the title of the book Grunwald wrote in 2007 about the Everglades. It's a title that represents the negative attitude people initially had towards the area. But in fact, this place is an environmental treasure.
The Everglades is a super unique ecosystem. It is the only ecosystem like it in the entire world.
Home to thousands of native plant and animal species, the Everglades are 7,800 square miles of wetlands, where water slowly flows from the Kissimmee River near Orlando all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. There is some evidence of prehistoric people living in the Everglades some 15,000 years ago, when the area was an arid landscape. The Calusa, the Tequesta, the Seminole, and the Miccosukee were the only humans who lived in the Everglades for hundreds of years, up until the 19th century. These natives called the land Pehioku, which means grassy water. White explorers went through a few names on their maps, but settled on the phrase Everglades. Glades after the tall sawgrass that grows in the shallow water, and ever because it looked like that grassy water went on forever. Throughout the colonialism era, the Spanish Empire claimed this land in what they called East Florida, but they never actually lived there. So with no use for it, Spain gave up its claims to Florida in 1821, leaving it to the growing United States. And when Americans started moving in, they realized something. The land underneath this shallow water was extremely fertile, and if they got rid of the water, they could use it to grow crops.
This was the age of manifest destiny, when Americans believed that we were kind of destined to tame the wilderness and turn it into something amazing for all mankind. And the Everglades was the wilderness.
Tonight on News Vision. Israel at war. A conflict that's raging thousands of miles away hits close to home for many UM students and Miami residents.
They're seeing innocent people die on both sides. It doesn't matter if you're Jewish, it doesn't matter if you're Muslim or Christian, like no one should have to go through this.
Plus, one hotel in South Beach may turn into more permanent housing for some low-income residents, a decision that is causing controversy.
We should be people to push forward, start a lawsuit. This way other cities can join us. I'm positive that they will.
And later on, how a boxing gym in Miami is helping at-risk youngsters stay safe.
The overall goal of my life is to teach people to fight and be strong and be fully self-expressed and learn to honor themselves. So our slogan is we teach kids to fight so they don't.
These stories and a lot more on tonight's episode of News Vision. It starts right now.
Good evening and welcome to News Vision. I'm Regina Potenza.
And I'm Andrew Klein. Thank you for joining us. Our top story tonight is the war in Israel. We have team coverage and reactions as the Miami community and the world responds.
Hamas murdered hundreds of Israelis, men, women, and children.
Israel is at war. But though Israel didn't start this war, Israel will finish it.
For almost 2 weeks now, Israel and Hamas have been at war, with both sides seeing casualties up in the thousands.
Joining us now is Harvey Duplock with an update on how the conflict has progressed.
More than 4,000 dead, at least 15,000 injured, and some 1.5 million civilians displaced after 12 days of war between Israel and the Palestinian militant group Hamas. The conflict began on October 7th when Hamas launched over 2,000 rockets into Israel and invaded the Jewish nation. What followed has been described as a nightmare. Hamas gunmen went door to door in Israel, killing hundreds of soldiers and civilians, including women and children, and taking hundreds more hostage.
It was animal slaughter. It's like they take all the animals to one place and shoot them all.
Less than 24 hours after the terrorist attacks, Israel declared war on Hamas, launching numerous airstrikes on the Gaza Strip, with the Israeli defense minister saying, quote, "What was in Gaza will no longer be." The current conflict began in 1948 with the founding of Israel. The Jewish state is surrounded by Arab countries that have at times opposed its existence. Now, terrorist groups like Hezbollah and Hamas continue to attack Israel and oppose the Oslo Accords, which is a decades-old peace treaty between Israel and the Palestine Liberation Organization. The ongoing war is between Israel and Hamas, not Israel and the Palestinians. Hamas members live in Gaza, so Israel's response will lead to collateral damage.
Can't lose sight of the fact that the overwhelming majority of Palestinians had nothing to do with Hamas. They're suffering as a result as well.
Israel initiated a complete blockade of supplies entering Gaza, cutting off all water, power and food entering the area. It then ordered the evacuation of over 1 million Palestinians living in northern Gaza, forcing them to flee south as Israel prepares to launch a ground invasion in the coming days.
We are trying now to move the civilians so that they will not be hurt, and we want to go in and uproot that infrastructure of terror.
And once we'll see that the situation will be permissible for significant combat operations, then they will commence.
But currently, the 2 million residents of Gaza have nowhere to go because the territory's only other neighbouring country, Egypt, said that it would not open its borders to Palestinian refugees. Meanwhile, the United States is doing all it can to bring all the American citizens in the area home.
I assured them my personal commitment to do everything possible to return every missing American to their families.
Yesterday, President Biden landed in Israel and met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Israeli President Isaac Herzog and spoke on a number of topics. President Biden said he will ask Congress for an unprecedented support package, said there's no higher priority than to bring American hostages home, and that Israel has agreed to allow aid into Gaza.
Based on the understanding that there will be inspections
We all care about our communities and the people in them, but some go above and beyond the role of good friend and good neighbor. These are people who make positive change, work tirelessly for the benefit of others, and shine a beacon of light in their small corner of the world. We call them hometown heroes. When they see a problem, they fix it. When they recognize a need, they fill it. And when they hear a cry for help, they answer it. These are ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Their mission? To change the world. And these are their stories. Hello and welcome to Hometown Heroes, a special UMTV show that highlights stories of extraordinary people who make our community and the world a better place. I'm your host, Daryl Barnes. We begin with one of the most urgent problems in the United States, the opioid crisis. Over the past 5 years, more than 500,000 Americans have died from opioid overdoses, with the death toll increasing every single year. The crisis affects every city in America, and in Miami alone, more than 320 people died from drug overdoses in 2021. And one local group of heroes at the Miami Recovery Project is working every day to bring that number down. Anna Kuhn is at the Miami Recovery Project in Kendall, Florida, with more.
Daryl, addicts looking to get on the path to recovery often turn to treatment centers or rehabilitation, but the cost of private facilities are out of reach for many, and most public facilities have a waiting list of several months. Here in Kendall, this office park behind me houses a different type of program, one that isn't for profits and won't turn away anyone that shows up at their front door. Miami is known for its cocaine cowboys era and South Beach nightlife, and many consider it a major drug and party city. But the consequences of that reputation are more than just a bad hangover.
I started using at the age of 15. People didn't want to be around me. I didn't have any money. I had lost my job. The mother of my kid left with my daughter.
Every time I see someone that's like sick and suffering, I see myself.
As a person who has survived a suicide attempt, I also survived living street-level homeless in Overtown. I've been there.
According to the CDC, 107,000 people died of an opioid overdose in 2021. And after struggling to overcome his own addiction, Thomas wanted to become a part of the solution.
If you're sick with cancer, diabetes, or anything, you're having follow-ups for years. No questions asked. When it comes to substance use disorder, you go to treatment if you're lucky, and then good luck. There's no follow-ups, there's nothing.
So Thomas created the Miami Recovery Project, a recovery community organization. It's a program that links people with peer specialists, someone who can use their own addiction experience to help with the recovery process, instead of providing traditional clinical treatment.
Being able to have that one-on-one interaction with peers, really, the individuals that we serve, and just being able to see them evolve.
Since its creation 2 years ago, the Miami Recovery Project has served over 1,000 people, many of them more than once. Because unlike most treatment centers, people can keep coming back here for as long as they need. Plus, all their services are completely free to ensure that anyone can get help.
We have lived what you're going through, and we're here to support you.
We all in this office every single day are just trying to do a little bit better.
All of that darkness, all of that, there was a meaning and a purpose behind that. And I'm able to, be there for others as well.
The Miami Recovery Project also holds monthly Narcan training events. Narcan is a life-saving drug that will temporarily reverse the effect of an opioid overdose. And the FDA recently approved it for sale without a prescription. But if you want to avoid the costs of buying over the counter, the Miami Recovery Project will give it to you for free at all of their training events. Reporting for UMTV, I'm Anna Kuhn.
Anna, thank you. And another group of heroes in South Florida called the Miami Rescue Mission helps the homeless and people in need. The organization just celebrated its 100th birthday, and it is devoted to transforming people's lives by providing them with shelter, meals, life-changing residential programs, employment, and housing. And as Daniel DeVilliers shows us, the Miami Rescue Mission also helps change the lives of the heroes who work there.